Hi, this is the tutorial for the book that I made using love letters from Country Craft Creations. So I'm going to do a not a walkthrough. I already did a video of a walkthrough if you want to see that. But this tutorial is for the construction. I will give you the measurements of the chipboard and the cardstock, and I'll tell you how to score. The only thing I don't do is put the measurements down for the matting. Everybody mats a little bit different. Some go 1/8 of an inch smaller, some go 1/4 of an inch smaller, and time-wise it's just easier for me to give you the construction tutorial. So I did use the love letters for this one. I will be using, sorry about the glare, the Spring Awakenings for this next one that I make. And so I will again show you the construction, and then I'll come back at the end and show you what my book looked like after I added the pattern paper. So let's go ahead and get started. I hope the color is showing up okay on my camera. I've been trying to adjust it, and I don't know if it's working as well as I was hoping, but okay, so let's start with the chipboard pieces. You are going to need 2 pieces that are 5 by 9. That's for the front and back cover. And you will need one that's 2 by 9, and that is the spine. I shouldn't use pink sticky notes, I don't think. There we go. Now once you have that, you're going to put your score tape on the back. I did use the score sheets on mine. It just goes a little bit faster. And then to wrap these, you're going to need 3 pieces of paper. One of them is at 5 by 11, and that's for the spine, and 2 of them are 7 by 11, and that's for the front and back cover. So let me show you how we wrap the pieces separately. This is a different technique if you're not familiar with Tammy's lay flat method. So I'm going to go ahead and use my scoreboard, and there are some spacers that we use that you can get from the store, and that helps make sure that you have the right border around your chipboard pieces. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my paper down first on my scoreboard. I'm going to place my 1-inch border at the top, and 1 inch on the side. So that way when we put our cover down, we can get exactly a 1-inch border on all 4 sides. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the backing off of the score tape, or the score sheets. See how easy that is when it's a strip? It goes way faster than having to do all those individual pieces. I was a little bit short, so I had to put a little piece there, but so let's just go ahead and get that on there. You are going to want to use your burnishing tool just to make sure that it's on real well. I'm going to go ahead and do the other one while we're at it. Again, this is a 7 by 11 paper. The cover, you go 2 inches bigger. So if it's 5 inches across, that's where we got the 7 inches, and if it's a 9-inch tall book, that's where we got 11. So always add 2 inches. Okay. Now the spine is a little bit different. We use a 1.5 inch border on the side instead of a 1-inch border. So I'm still going to use the one across the top. And now I switched it out for the yellow one. That's the 1.5 inch piece. So being our spine is 2 inches wide, we add 1.5 inches on each side. So that's 3 inches plus the 2 for the spine. That's where I got the 5 inches. Okay, and just like the other ones, we're going to go ahead and remove the backing and then line it up so it has exactly the right border. Oops. Whoopsie. There we go. Okay, and then that's all I'm going to need my spacers for. So I'll move those off to the side. And go ahead and burnish that. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to wrap the front and back cover. So I'm going to use 1/4 inch score tape, and I'm going to place the score tape around the perimeter of the chipboard. Now I'm going to do that for both pieces. I'll probably just do one on camera, but for the front and back cover, you're going to do the score tape around the perimeter of the chipboard and also of the paper. Some people don't use the score tape as much anymore because of the art glitter glue. I kind of use a combination of the two. And I'll burnish that in a second. So now I'm going to go ahead and I don't have to go all the way to the corner with my score tape because I'm going to be mitering this. So I'm just going to put it about so. Don't want to waste if I don't have to. I feel like this is too bright. Let me try something with the white. Nope, wrong way. Is that better? No. I feel like there's too much white. Maybe, I don't know. I've been adjusting and trying to get it to be just right, and I'm still struggling a little bit with the coloring on my video. All right. Again, burnish it so that when you take the backing off, the adhesive stays on the material. So there's different ways to do mitering of the corners. I like mine at an angle. You can also do it on a square. And I'm going to bring it up and over, and then I burnish it after I have kind of give it a memory, the paper, so it knows where to bend. I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. Now when I say you can cut out this square, now that we bent it, there is a square on the on each corner. Oh my gosh. You can cut that square out. I am really struggling with the color. So I have this tool that I use, oopsie, to miter the corners. You can just cut it at an angle as long as you leave about 1/8 of an inch from the corner of your chipboard. So you don't want to go all the way to the chipboard because we're going to wrap it and we don't want any chipboard showing. Otherwise, like I said, you can cut out the square and that works also. I just like the looks of the angle, not really sure why, but so now when you wrap this, you're going to want to get your art glitter glue. And as I remove the backing, I need to do the bottom. I do the long sides first when I wrap my board cover. So I'm taking the sides and the bottom off of the chipboard, and then the one on the paper at the bottom on the long side. So place glue along the chipboard so that the paper will stick to it and wrap around it really nice and smoothly. Fill in. Bring it up and over, and you're going to want to smooth it. You don't want any ripples. So I have a handy wipe, a dry one handy for any excess glue that's going to squeeze out of there. And then what I do is I kind of put it up on its side, and I'm going to burnish the edge so that it's nice and smooth. Do the opposite side now. always go up against the chipboard first. I do that one first because it kind of gives it a little bit of time to soak into the fibers of the paper. Bring it up and over. Obviously, if you are familiar with the wrapping of the cover, you can fast forward this. Do have a notebook handy for writing down the measurements. I don't type them in the description box just as a time saver. I find that it takes me a lot longer to do it that way, and with my job and stuff, I want to get these done as quickly as I can for you guys to get them out. Now I'm going to have to push down these little corners so that when I fold the paper over, that paper goes around the corner of the chipboard. So I don't know if you can see this, but I just kind of push down the bottoms. And I bumped my camera, so sorry. Seriously, you guys, the coloring is really bad. That's not any better. I get to the point where I mess with it too much. I don't know. Okay. Again, glue up against the chipboard. And then I like to fill in the center. And then I just kind of push those two little corners down to make sure they stay down as I bring the paper up and over. And just like before, smooth that edge. Last side. Tuck in those corners. When I say tuck them in and kind of flatten them at the same time. Glue. Tuck them down with your finger, up and over. And last step is to always smooth that edge. So you'll do the front and back cover the same way, okay? Now we're going to do the spine. That feels like it's... All right. So the spine's a little bit different because we're not going to wrap this long sides. We're going to leave those open. So I might again do mine a little bit different if you are used to following Tammy's tutorials from Country Craft Creations. But you can do it the way she does it, or you can do it the way you do it. You can do it the way I do it. It's whichever way works best for you. Everybody kind of has their own preference. So as you can see, I'm just kind of bending it over again like we did on the covers. All right, so once I do the folding, I'm going to take my scissors that I have right here. And there is a rectangle, whoopsie, there's a rectangle in the corner. I'm going to cut it at a diagonal. I'm going to take that triangle off. Like so. And do that on all four corners. So the way I do it is the way Tammy originally started. She found an easier way for her, and it took out some of the bulk. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to wrap the chipboard as well as I would like, or that you'd see some of the chipboard, so I kind of stuck to the original way. So I'm just going to place some score tape on the short ends and just a little bit right here on the the paper. You don't need any score tape on the long sides. Okay, so both ends look like this. So I'm going to remove the backing. And I'm going to fill in this whole section with glue. So I'm going to start by putting it up against the chipboard, and then you put the glue in this whole section, this trapezoid, and then you're going to bring it up and over, and you're going to go ahead and push down. And I've seen people do it this way and they forget to put glue on the outsides. You want to put glue on that whole section so that these lay down flat. Okay, and again, I'm going to go ahead and burnish that on the end. So let's do the other end the same way. So I've seen people just put glue here. You need glue on either side also. The cover, we want to make sure that we spend the time on it and that we are nice and neat and that we are using the right amount of adhesive. We don't want our book to come apart. So now, if you were to wrap this, these would get in the way. So we're going to end up trimming those. So I'm going to turn it on the other side here, and I'm going to rest my scissors up against the chipboard and cut at a slight angle, like so. Same way on all four corners. You rest your scissors up against the chipboard, slight angle, and that way none of the paper will show as we on the edges when we wrap our book. Now you do want to fold your paper back along the long sides. This is what we're going to attach the front and back cover to, and so I like to make sure that it's burnished right up against the chipboard, so you'll see a definite indentation. And we're going to be resting the book right up against there, so see, you can see that ridge. Okay. And so there you go. You see a definite bump, and that's the chipboard in the center. Okay. Now, what we're going to do then is for both the front and back cover, we're going to be placing the spine. This wing goes to the inside like so. So what we want to do, I'm going to flip this over. Now I use a combination of both glue and score tape. So I'm going to put score tape almost to the score. I'm going to be about 1/8 of an inch away from it, because I don't want it right up to the chipboard. So about 1/8 of an inch away. And then I just do 3 strips, and then I fill in with glue in the centers of those. You're going to burnish that. And I just like to do kind of a dry fit to make sure, oh, that's going to be perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead again, remove the backing. If you have any overhang, like I do, I have a little bit of tape. I just bring it up and over so it's not sticking out. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get my glue and I'm going to put it in between the score tape, just a light little swirly here. And then I do put right along the top of the glue just a little bit, so if I need a little wiggling to get it to line up right, I have that glue that kind of makes it a little bit easier. I'm just going to bump that up. I'm going to press it down, and then I'll turn it over and burnish it real well. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So let's go ahead and place our 3 strips of score tape. At least I use 3. This is 1/4 inch. So I'm giving myself about 1/8 of an inch away from the chipboard. I'm going to burnish that down, glue in between, and then we do the other cover, or the back. Here's my front, and the covers are on, and now we're going to cover this spine piece. And so I have put some score tape around the perimeter of the chipboard just so that it lays smoothly. A lot of times people will use score sheets on this also. I had some 1-inch score tape that I just put on there. You want a good coverage so that when your book is bending and opening and closing, that it stays down nice and flat. This paper that I am using is 5 inches across by 8 7/8 inches tall. So our book is 9. I took 1/8 of an inch off. So this is 8 7/8. I'm going to go ahead and start removing the backing. I'm going to try and line it up as evenly as I can. So I have backing to take off on the book and on the artisan paper. Again, because it's the cover, I'd rather use a little bit more than a little bit less, just to make sure. So I placed score tape on either side of the chipboard. Just put a little piece at the top and the bottom so it lays down nice and neat. And now I need to take the backing off of this. And I'm not going to add any glue because the glue does make it ripple. And I don't like to see the glue marks, even though we're going to cover it with the hinge. It just really bothers me. If you have any any ends sticking out, tuck them over so that they lay down and you don't see them. Alright, so I'm just going to eyeball this. And burnish like crazy. Making sure the edges get down real good. So now I'm going to make the hinge, and it's only got 3 pages, so it's going to be a quick book. I'm throwing away my scraps here. So if you want to start getting some things ready, this is the base pages and the hinge. So for base pages, you're going to need 3 that are 4 3/4 by 8 3/4. So our book is 5 inches across. So I took 1/4 of an inch off for our pages. So again, 3 that are 4 3/4 by 8 3/4. 3 of them that are 4 3/4 by 9 3/4. And then that hinge that we're going to do is 4 by 8 5/8. Okay, 4 by 8 5/8. So I'm going to go ahead and do the hinge first, and we score it every 1/2 inch. So with the 4 inches across the top, we're going to score at 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, 3, and 3 1/2. So every 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and start folding on the score marks. So the first 2 are going to become glued together, and they're going to become the first hinge. Okay, and then the third one is actually going to be a gusset. Man, this lighting is terrible. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and burnish that score mark though. All right, so the first two are going to get glued together. You guys, the lighting is driving me crazy. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. And then we leave the third one, like I said, as a gusset. So then we're going to put 4 and 5 together, and we're going to end up gluing those. Number 6 is going to be the gusset, and 7 and 8 will be glued together to make the third hinge. Whoopsie, I just ripped it. Should be all right though. All right, so let's go ahead and glue. I'll show you here in a second. I ripped this one, so I got to be careful. I'm just putting glue on 1 and 2. Well, actually just on the first one, and it will attach to the second rectangle. So you want to burnish that so it sticks together real well. Okay, place glue on for the middle hinge. Pinch them together. You want to burnish it real well. And then the last one. So no wings on this. When I say no wings, no overhang to attach to the front and back cover. You just put it on the spine. Okay, so if you take a look on the back, mine's nice and smooth. If by some chance you have a little bit hanging over, you might want to lightly trim that, but mine look like it's okay. So I just like to keep burnishing real well. All right, so now let's bring our book back. Let's go ahead and bend our front and back cover along the spine piece so it will open and close. Don't do it too rough because you don't want to rip your paper, and especially if you're not using Artisan, be careful. Okay, so there's the actual cover. So we're going to center our spine, or excuse me, our hinge in this. We're going to eyeball it to make sure we have the same distance top and bottom, same distance side to side. And so I'm going to put glue on the back. Be generous. It's going to be sticking to your book and turning pages. You don't want to have it come loose. Yeah, I put quite a bit. All right. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball this so that I have the same distance. All right. And just burnish it real well so it adhered. folding the hinges to each side and burnishing it down. Like so. All right, so now it's on to the base pages. For the base pages, if I haven't said it already, here are the measurements. 3 at 4 3/4 by 8 3/4, and then 3 at 4 3/4 by 9 3/4. So I've done 2 of the pages. I'm going to show you, it's just going to end up like so. So you just need to score on the 9 3/4 inch piece. So put the 9 3/4 across the top, and you're going to score it 1/2 on each end. Go ahead and burnish those that you just scored. So we're going to place this actually in the inside so that it looks nice on the edges. But when you put this in, it's going to be just a hair too big. So we are going to shave a little piece off the short end here, or off the long end. So I took off about that much, and now I'm going to put it in and see if it lays flat. Nope, see I have a little bit of a buckle, so I'm going to take a little bit more off. There we go, now it'll be flat. Okay, so I'm going to bump this up against my scoreboard. I'm going to open up that 1/2 inch, put glue on it. Bring it over. Now some people attach it right on the hinges. I don't have luck with that, so you are more than welcome to do that if that's how you're used to doing it, but I'm going to attach them after I have all the flaps and stuff on. I might even do the decorating first this time, or the pattern paper, before I put them on the hinge. Okay, so it's nice and flat. So what I end up doing then, we made our hinge a hair shorter than our base page, so I'm hoping that it will slide on there. If it doesn't, I'm going to angle my hinge, but it should fit because I made it a little bit smaller. I might have to angle it, people. Maybe I'm not getting it open up here. There we go. Alright, so it's going to end up being attached on the hinge, but I'm going to wait until I have all the flaps and stuff on first. But go ahead and make sure that all of them fit, because there is a fix if it doesn't. Yep, this one does. Yep, they all do. Okay, if it doesn't, you're going to want to taper or angle your hinge. So you're going to take off a little triangle so that it's angled in, and then you can try just doing one end first and see if it will go on then. If not, you'll have to do the both top and bottom. Mine, I didn't have to do that this time. I think I did last time though. All right, so now we're going to work with our three, actually let's do the front cover, the inside front cover. So let me find my pieces. Here we go. So for the inside cover, you're going to need 2 that are 4 7/8 by 5. And see, when you see this line with the 1/2, that means I'm going to score 1/2 inch on the 5 inch side. That's what I do to write myself a note. You're going to need 1 at 4 1/2 by 8 1/2, and that's going to be a mat. So you might want to just wait until the end and see what kind of leftover scrap paper you have. It doesn't have to be 4 1/2 by 8 1/2. And then you're going to need 2 squares that are 2 1/2 by 2 1/2 that we're going to end up making the diagonal corner angled pockets. So let me show you. That's for these corners. Okay. All right. So no scoring on my mat. That's 4 1/2 by 8 1/2. So I'm going to put that off to the side. So the two that measure, now these are pretty close in measurement, so you're gonna have to be careful. One's 4 7/8 and one's 5. So you want the one that's 5 inches across the top, okay, not the 4 7/8. Let me double check that. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so score at 1/2 just on one end. Do that to both pieces. 5 inches across the top, score at 1/2. Go ahead and burnish your score marks. And I do want to taper or miter the edge of that 1/2 inch by taking a slight angle. Slight angle. Okay, so we have a top flap and a bottom flap, like so. Now, let's get our two squares that are 2.5 by 2.5. And the first thing I want to do is cut them at a diagonal. So I have two triangles, and it's a square, so it doesn't matter which opposite sides you cut. Okay, like so. Do that to both pieces. All right, I'm going to score at 1/2 on one side, and I'm going to flip it around and do 1/2 on the other side. So that's just going to leave a small, well, let me show you. Let's take out the corner, that square. We're going to cut it at an angle, get that out of there. When we fold this over, you're going to notice that you have some excess. We're going to cut that off. Just use the triangle as a guide and bump up your scissors up against the triangle and cut off the excess. And same way with the other side. Cut off the excess by using the triangle as a guide so you know where to cut it. And that's going to become our corner piece. So you're going to do that to all 4 pieces. Let me do one more just to show you. So 1/2 inch on one side, I turn it over and do 1/2 inch on the other side. You cut out the corner square at an angle, fold that over on the score line, cut off the excess. Do the same for the next one, fold it over, cut off the excess. All right, do that to all 4. Next, we want to glue those on the 4 outer corners. So this is my bottom flap. So my 1/2 inch is at the bottom as I'm looking at it. I'm going to glue one to the bottom left and one to the bottom right. Okay, so let's go ahead and put glue on the 1/2 inch section. I have my 1/2 inch tucked underneath. Make sure it lines up on the bottom and on the left. And let's do the other one too. Bottom right. Make sure it lines up on the bottom and on the right side. So what we're going to do then when you actually mat this, this is a 1.5 inch base. So it's 1.5 by 1.5, the two sides. So you're going to cut out a piece of pattern paper that's 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 and cut it on the diagonal, and then it'll fit. Okay. Next, the top one. So here's my 1/2 inch. I'm going to wrap it to the bottom, and now these two pieces will go at the top like so. Okay. Oopsie, I dropped one. So I'm actually going to turn it around just to make it easier for me to see. But you always glue it on the side that has the 1/2 inch fold. And burnish it on. Now it's up to you as to whether or not you want to put your pattern paper on first and then put it in your book, or if you want to put it in your book and then put on the pattern paper. For the front and back cover, I'm going to go ahead and just adhere the pieces, and I can go back easily and put my pattern paper on. But for some people, they would prefer to put the pattern paper on before they attach it. Maybe I should do that just to show you. Well, before we do that, I'm going to turn my book sideways, and I want to make sure that when I have the two pieces down, that they meet in the center. That's where I'm going to know where to glue them. You want to make sure that your paper doesn't get in the way of your hinge and your cover, so that when you fold it over, nothing bends. So I'm going to line these up closer to the outside edge, and this is perfect. So I'm going to glue them so that they just touch. Like so. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. So I'm trying to debate, do I put on the pattern paper? Let me think about it. Okay, I went ahead and papered my flaps just to, I did ink the edges too, and I go 1/8 of an inch smaller than the actual piece. And so I want to make sure that, like I said, I clear it over here. When I open and close my book, I don't want this to get in the way so that it starts to bend. So I'm going to go more towards this side, and I'm going to put one on. I'm going to leave a little bit of a border down here, not much at all. Oops, I got to put glue on the outside. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'll open it up and I'll burnish it. Okay, so now I want to make sure that this one lines up and that they don't overlap at all, because you don't want that to get in the way when you're opening and closing it. So I'm going to put this at the top and make sure. Perfect. Okay, so that when I glue it down, I can see that they just meet. So before you press down too hard, line them up. Okay. And then open it and burnish. All right, so I will go back and put in pattern paper here later. Remember the mat, you can wait just to make sure that you maybe have a scrap that you want to use instead. But I'll just put mine there so I don't lose it. Okay, and I'll go back and cover that later. So now let's do the back cover. You only need 2 pieces for that. You'll need one that's 3.5 by 9 7/8 and one that's 5 by 9. And we don't want bulk, and so I'll show you why I did it the way I did it. So let's go ahead. Maybe I did do it a little bit different. Anyway, let's go. Okay, so these are the measurements. And I'm going to get the one that's 3.5 by 9 7/8. And with the 9 7/8 across the top, score at 1/2. Why did I say 9 on that? And half. I think I have a mistake on my measurement. Why would I say... hold on. Yep, that was right. I was looking at a different page design. That's why I was getting myself confused. Okay, so there's a pocket and a flip. So do 1/2 on the 9 7/8 inch side, each end, and then turn it so that it's on the 3.5 inch side and score at 1/2. Now mine is 3 inches. I prefer 3.5, but I didn't want to waste paper. So mine is 3, and I'm not going to score this end. So it will just take away, I'll just put glue down here instead. But my preference would have been to do 3.5 and then score it a half, so that I scored half on 3. But I don't want to waste paper, so I did it a little bit different. The last one then, the 9 7/8. The 5 by 9, excuse me. On the 5 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2. Now I am going to miter that 1/2 inch on each end. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and burnish this. Now you can decide if you want to use some sort of decorative border or edge. I'm just going to go ahead and do something on the corners. Let's see. Let me see what I have. All right, I found this one in my stuff, so I did that for my corner instead of doing the whole border across. And then this one, remember, you will have it on 3 sides scored. I just have it on 2, so I'm going to go ahead and burnish those. Okay, and then you would do the bottom one too. And you'd have to cut out the corners to make a pocket. All right, so what's going to happen is this is going to be a pocket here, and this is going to be a flap that goes on top. So I'm going to do the pocket first. You'll put glue on 3 sides. I only have to do it on, well, I have to do it on 3 too, but I just don't have a 1/2 inch here. I hope that's not confusing, but my pocket won't have much depth. And again, I want it to clear so that it doesn't get in the way of closing my book. And I'm going to look at the top and the bottom to make sure. There we go. And I still didn't glue the stupid thing closed. Yikes. Let's try that again. Now this one's going to be easy to cover with pattern paper, so I didn't have to do it before I put it in my book, because this is going to be flat, so it'll be easy to cover that. And then the last one, if you want to put the pattern paper on first, you can, and you just want to make sure that you line up the top and the bottom with your pocket so that they line up exactly the same. Okay, like so, and then glue it down. I went ahead and put paper on this one because I thought the flap, it would be easier to do ahead of time. I'll go back and pattern this later. I'm going to turn my book sideways, and I'm going to put glue on the 1/2 inch strip, and I just need to, again, make sure that it lines up on these two sides. So let's put that on. Okay. Don't push down too hard yet until you've got it lined up. And I think that's good. Alright, this paper is adorable. This book's going to look totally different in this paper. Okay, so now let's build the base pages. I will probably put the pattern paper on first, not the embellishments, just the pattern paper before I attach them to my hinges. So let's go ahead and start with page 1. So let's get our materials. You'll need one base page that we've already attached. It's it's open. And page 1 for the front. These are the measurements of the paper. You'll need 3 that are 4 3/4 by 3. 2 that are 1.5 by 5.5, and 1 that's 2 by 3.5. So that page is this one with the 3 like flaps here and the belly band to keep it from flapping around. And then we'll do the back also, which is the double pocket. So the back measurements, you need 2 pieces. One that's 5 3/4 by 3 and one that's 5 3/4 by 7. Okay, again, those 1/2 inches are notes to me, so if you're writing it down like I do, when I have 1/2 EA underneath that, that means put the 5 3/4 inches across the top of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score at 1/2 on each end. Okay, if I don't have EA, that means just on one side. All right, so this is going to be the front. We're going to work with the 3 pieces that were 4 3/4 by 3. So all of these are going to get scored at 1/2 inch on one side. So place the 4 3/4 along the top of your scoreboard and score at 1/2. Okay, while we have our scoring out, let's go ahead and take the 2 that are 1.5 by 5.5, place the 5.5 inches across the top, score at 1/2 on both pieces. Now the one piece that we have left for the closure, we're going to do that separate, so let's just kind of leave that for a little bit. And let's go ahead and do the back scoring also. So that's the 2 pieces on both of them. So let's start with the 5 3/4 by 3. Put your 5 3/4 across the top, score at 1/2 on each end. Now this one I wanted to get rid of some bulk, so I did not do a 1/2 inch at the bottom. So we're just going to put glue here, not a 1/2 inch fold. And then the 5 3/4 by 7, we're going to score on 3 sides. So put 5 3/4 at the top, score at 1/2. Rotate it 1 turn, so 7 inches is across the top, score at 1/2. Rotate it 1 more turn, so 5 3/4 is at the top, and now you have 3 sides with score marks. Alright, so let's go ahead and burnish our score marks, and you have to decide how you want your flaps to be. Do you want some sort of edge or corner rounder, or I'm going to do like a ticket. I have a punch that looks like a ticket. Now before I do the corners, I'm going to look and make sure that I can fit all 3 of these on here without any overlapping. If there's any overlapping, I'm going to do just shave off the middle one a hair. Oh yes, that's way different. What? Okay, that's not good. These are 3. Maybe I want... Oh, one of them I didn't cut right. That's why. This one's not 3. Let's see if that makes a difference. There we go. So I might have to shave one off, remember. Just doing a little dry fit here. That's still way off, isn't it? I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off each so that they're 2 7/8 each. Sorry, 2 7/8 instead of 3. Two 7/8. 2 7/8. Now there might be a little bit of a gap between. That's totally fine. That way you won't have the pieces getting in the way of each other. Alright, so I went to 2 7/8 inch each. Let's see if that does the trick. And now we know why we do a dry fit. Bingo. That's going to work. Okay, sorry about that, but it's better to cut it too big than too small. So now I'm going to get my corner rounder, or mine's stub, and I'm going to do the stub on the 4 corners. And do that to all 3. Again, you have to decide, do you want to put your pattern paper on first? So because I'm doing this, if it's 2 7/8 wide, your pattern paper would be 2 3/4 if you go 1/8 of an inch smaller. If you go 1/4, then you'll have to adjust it as needed. I don't remember how long these are. So these are, when it's folded back, they're 4 1/4. So you do 4 1/8 for the pattern paper. All right. So I'm probably going to put the pattern paper on, and I'm going to glue top and bottom on first. And then you put the middle one in. If the middle one has a little bit of, if it overlaps just a hair, we can trim that. But see, because of the punch I used, it's going to be easy to line them up because you'll get the circle here that matches. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the pattern paper on, and then I'll attach them to the book. Okay, here we go. So I went ahead and put the pattern paper on the front and back of the flaps. And like I said, I'm going to put the flaps on the top and the bottom first. So I'm going to turn this sideways. It's just easier for me. And I'm going to make sure that I get it to the far side and to the top. Okay. Now I'm going to do the bottom one. I'm going to bump it up against this side now. Put glue on your 1/2 inch. Actually, I'm going to go back over here, and I'll just do it this way. Okay. And now we're going to do the final one. I'm going to do a dry fit first again. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, so now we want to put the belly band on so that it keeps these closed. So I already covered them. If it's 1.5 across, I went 1 3/8. So it's 5 inches long, so I went 4 7/8. And I'm going to center it. And there will be some overlap. That's how we're going to keep it closed with the type of closure we're doing here. So there you go. We can measure or you can eyeball it. So if this is, let me get my Tim Holtz ruler. If I were a Tim Holtz ruler, where would I be? Right here. Let's see. So I'm going to put a dot with my pencil as I center it. And once I get one on, I can line up the other one, so I don't need to do the both of them. And then this will be in the middle. Okay, there we go. So I put my little dot, which is the center. I'm going to put the center of this right on top of that. Okay, I'm going to turn it upside down, do the other one, and this time I don't need to put that dot. I'm just going to line it up like this and make sure that these two sides line up. Like so. So now our closure is a little bit different. So that's this one. Let me see if I can find the measurement. This is the one that is 2 by 3.5. So what I do is I'm going to score the 3.5 inch side across the top. I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. And I'm going to burnish that. And I'm going to place it, because I don't know, I got to make sure that it will slide. You don't want it too tight and you don't want it too loose. So when these two are together, I'm going to wrap, put that 1/2 inch underneath. And I'm just going to kind of put a pencil mark as to where I should. I put it just a hair on the outside of where, and that's where I'm going to score. So I'm just going to line this up with a bar, it doesn't matter which one, and I'll score on that mark I made. And then we have to do a test run. So before I glue this closed, I'm going to place it on here. And is that going to be enough? That might be kind of tight the way I have it. I might need to just adjust a hair. Close, but not exactly. It was super close. All right, let's do it again. Yep, that's going to work. Okay, so now I'm going to glue. I'm going to put the 1/2 inch on the outside. I guess it doesn't really matter. Or the 1/2 inch on the inside. And I'm going to do it on the outside. Let's put a little bit of glue here on the edge. Wrap it around. And then slide it on. And then to close it, you're going to have these overlapped, and then it'll be just like so. And I'll go back and decorate that later. Okay, that's page 1 front. Page 1 back is, you've already scored them, so let's go ahead and burnish. These are the 5 3/4 by 3 and the 5 3/4 by 7. So the one that's by 3, we're going to go ahead and burnish those 2 sides. We did a 1/2 inch on each side. And this is going to be a pocket, but we don't want bulk in our book, so that's why I didn't do the 1/2 inch down here. It's just going to be a thin line of glue at the bottom. This is a pocket, so I'm going to take out the corners at an angle. I'm going to angle the top. And then I'm going to burnish. Again, you can put your pattern paper on first before you adhere it if you want. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to glue this on top of this. Now, if you want any kind of design, or if you want some sort of pattern cut at the top, now's your time to do it before you glue it down. I'm trying to decide. I think I might just end up going with lace, so I don't really need a decorative top. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me show you. So see, I did a heart pattern. I'm just going to put lace instead. So I don't need to do any of that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the 2 1/2 inch sides and a strip along the bottom and lay it on top of that pocket. Okay, and we want to make sure everything's lined up on both sides and at the bottom. And burnish that on. Now when you do your pattern paper, you don't have to have it go all the way to the bottom. You can stop about right here and that, so you don't waste any paper. Alright, so we want to make sure we're putting it on the right direction. So I'm just going to flip this over and make sure it lines up, and it does. Perfect. And now let's glue those 3 sides. Alrighty. And burnish. And that is page 1. And you can put these in any order that you want in your book, and then I go back and I'm going to put pattern paper on later. Okay, let's get page 2 papers cut. Okay, so the front of page 2 is really simple. It's going to be just 2 flaps to hold things in. We might put a stopper down here at the bottom so things don't go all the way through. But it's 2 short flaps and with holes on them to have a ribbon closure. And then the back is a waterfall with the, like so, in a pocket. Alright, so for the front you need 2 that are 2 by 6. And for page 2, the back, you might want to freeze your camera or your video and write this down. You'll need 1 that's 4 5/8 by 7, 6 that are 4 5/8 by 4 1/2, and 1 that is 5 5/8 by 2 3/4. Okay, let's do our scoring first. So the 2 for the front that measure 2 by 6, put the 2 inches across the top, score it 1/2. On both pieces. Okay, for the back ones, let's start with the 4 5/8 by 7. Place the 7 across the top, score it 1/2. The 6 pieces that are 4 5/8 by 4 1/2, you want the 4 1/2 inches across the top, so you're going to have to be careful. 4 1/2 versus 4 5/8, so it's really close. We want the 4 1/2 across the top, score it 1/2 on all 6. Don't do any mitering on this. On a waterfall, you don't miter. That's 4 1/2 on the top. I could have done some of these off camera, save some time, but again, you can decide if you want to corner around the bottom or make some sort of decorative edge. There's the 6. And then the last piece is going to be a pocket. We're going to start with the long side across the top. Do 1/2 inch. Turn it 1/2 inch. Turn it one more time. So you have 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Let's go ahead and get everything burnished and ready. So I'll burnish this off camera and I'll come back. I did one of them off camera to show you what the flaps are going to look like. We scored it 1/2. Remember, we're going to have 1 on each side, so you'll have 1 score on the left, 1 score on the right. I do want to angle this, and so with the 1/2 inch at the top, I'm going to measure over on the opposite side at 1/2 inch, and I'm going to put a little tick mark at the top, and then 1/2 inch, and put a tick mark. Okay, that's going to be the angle in which we cut. So we're going to go from the corner to our mark. So line that up on your cutter so that you have one like so. And now we're going to do the other side from the corner to the tick mark. Now before you can punch your hole, you do need to put your pattern paper on. And so this measured, should have been 1 1/2, but mine is actually about 1 5/8. So I'm going to make my paper 1 1/2. You might have to measure yours to see, but go 1/8 of an inch smaller. And then you're going to, you can either put this underneath and trace it so you know the angle, or you can just measure 1/2 inch again. Okay, so put your paper on front and back, and then we'll put the hole on, or in. I'm going to line these two up. I found the center, which is 2 1/2 on this short end. On the short side, it's 2 1/2 inch. The halfway mark is 2 1/2 inches, because this is what I measure 5. That would make sense. Yep. So 5 inches halfway marks 2.5. So I took my Crop-A-Dile and went in, punched a hole and put my eyelet. And now I'm going to line this up and just kind of put a mark so I can get it in the same spot. Okay, I'm going to put my eyelet in, and I'll string the seam binding in later. All right, there we go. Perfect. Well, close, not perfect. All right, so now let's adhere that. Now you can either eyeball it or you can measure it. I'm going to eyeball it. So put glue on your 1/2 inch, and you're going to put one on each side. Turn it sideways. That looks about right to me. And then I'll line up the other one right across from it. And again, I'll eyeball it. If it bothers you, you can measure. Before I press down, I want to look at it a little bit carefully. Okay, and then the paper I chose for the inside of this one will be that. On the back, we're going to do a flap. Make sure it's going the right direction. So here was the one that we scored it on 3 sides. So this is the one that was 2 3/4 by 5 5/8, and I scored it 1/2 on each side, and I did cut out the corners because it's a pocket, and I angled the top. And this is going to go down here, and the flap I'm going to actually put on first. Now I did make it a little bit smaller than the page because you don't want it to get, when you're turning the page, you don't want it to get messed up. So I'm going to move it as far to the left as I can, or pretty close anyway. Actually, I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to go towards the left. I didn't do that on my other one, and it was getting caught on my, when I closed the book, it was getting kind of bent. So I'm going to place this one down first. I know that looks weird, but that's how we have to do it so it doesn't get messed up. And then we'll place our pocket on top of that. I probably shouldn't have done a bottom. I should have probably left it open so it was flatter, but I didn't. Don't go over the score. I'm going to move it up just a hair. And burnish that on. And you are going to be putting a magnet, so don't put your pattern paper on quite yet. You're going to be putting a magnet here, and then on the top page of your waterfall. So the 6 pages, I'm trying to decide if I want to do something on the corners. I think I want to do both of my corners here. Yeah, I like that. And now, do I want to do that here? Maybe I'll just round these. I think I'll just round them. All right. Oh, I forgot to round one. So don't put your pattern paper on yet for these, or at least not the top one and this, because that's where we put magnets. And so what I do, so I don't forget, is I'm just going to take my pencil and put an X here, and then I'll put an X here, just so I remember before I put the paper on, to make sure I get my magnet. So I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to put this up against the corner, and I'm going to use that as a guide for when I put my flaps down. Now remember, I want to go to this side. There'll be a little bit of space, but that's because we don't want it to catch on the book as it closes, and so that's just what we have to live with. So I'm placing my first one down, bumping this all the way up against there. And oops, sorry, can't see. Remember, we didn't miter those. We don't miter waterfalls. And now you just keep layering by butting up the next one up against that 1/2 inch that we just glued down. Again, lining it up on the, mine's upside down, so on the right hand side. Okay. Keep doing that till you're all done. We've got 6 of them to do, or is it 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6. It is easy to kind of have waterfalls kind of get off, but that's why I use my scoreboard. That does help. Okay, looking good. 3 more. And then we'll go back and burnish more when we're done. And I think I have 1 left. Yep. And you'll see that the pocket, then you can put a card in here to keep this, to kind of keep it closed too. So some people may not want a magnet in here. Let me show you. Well, yeah, you still would need a magnet. So you'll put a magnet to keep this closed, and I use the basic gray. And then if you want, a piece of scratch paper somewhere. Like you could put this here to help keep it closed. If it's a thicker one than that, that kind of keeps these flat, but it's the magnet that you really need to keep that flat. So that's page 2, front and back. Last one is page 3. Here are the measurements, and we'll do the scoring. So 1 at 4 by 9 3/4, 1 at 2.5 by 9 3/4. That's for the front, and on the back you'll need one that's 5 by 5.5. Let's go ahead and do our scoring real quick. All right, so let me take a look at the page or show you where we're headed. This is page 3, a double long narrow pocket. It's doubled, and on the back it's just a flap. So it's easy. Turn my board around. And here we go. This is my base page up here on the side. The one that is 4 by 9 3/4, we're going to score on 3 sides at 1/2. I can't find my scoring tool. Did I put it away? Huh. Well, crud. Maybe I did. I put it away. Okay. Long across the top. 9 3/4 across the top. Half. Turn it once. Half. Back to the long side across the top. Half. That's going to be one long pocket. The next one is the 2.5 by 9 3/4. Again, we don't want bulk, so we're not doing one a 1/2 inch on the long side, or on the top and the bottom. So go ahead and place, the long side across the top and score it 1/2 on each end. That will help with the bulk. And then the last one is 5 by 5.5. That's 5.5. That's 5. Which side? With the 5? Yeah, the 5 inches across the top. Score at 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and do my decorative corners. Again, you can, on this one, you can do your pattern paper ahead of time if you want, because there aren't any magnets. So this is actually the back flap. So that's all I'm going to do there. Let's go ahead and burnish these score marks. This is the one that has the 1/2 on 3 sides, so cut the corner out at an angle and miter the top. Burnish your score marks. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead. This is the thick, wider pocket. This one is going to go on top of it, like so, and we'll just glue that bottom. We'll just put glue on the bottom, even though there's not a 1/2 inch flap. Here we go. Along the bottom. My 1/2 inch is at the bottom here, facing me. And there you go. Burnish that. Yeah, page 3 is pretty easy. So if this is the front of page 3, our pocket's going to go like so on the left hand side. So now place glue on the 3. This one doesn't look like it's glued down enough. Okay, glue on 3 sides. I'm going to turn it sideways just so it's easier. Line it up right at the bottom. And burnish that on. Ugh, okay. So if that's the front, we turn it over, and then the only thing we have to do is place this flap. Did I have a magnet on this one? Nope, no magnet. So you can put your pattern paper on this ahead of time if you want. And you want to center it. You don't have to miter these because it's going in the middle. It's only when it's at the top or the bottom that you need to miter that 1/2 inch. And I'm going to turn it sideways again. And there we go. That is page 3. That's it. So I am going to go ahead and put the rest of my pattern paper on, and then I will show you how to adhere it to the hinges, and then I'll do my final embellishing and show you the end result. Alright, I'm going to show you how to attach the pages to the book. I'm going to go ahead and switch 2 pages. I'm going to switch pages 2 and 3 around. This has more bulk, so I want this at the back, and this in the middle, because it won't have as much bulk. Otherwise, I mean, I could keep it the same, but I'm going to do it different than the other book. So I'm just switching 2 pages around. So I usually work from the back to the front. And some people, like I said, put their pages on differently than I do. So again, I'm going to do a dry run, make sure I can get it on there. And I don't want to go all the way to the bottom. I want to go pretty close to the bottom, but I also want this to lay flat. So I put it on and lay it flat to see what it looks like. And so I'm going to put glue mainly at the top here of my hinge. So let me put some glue on. Don't go all the way to the bottom, or at least I don't. And you're going to put it on both sides. And I like to lay it down so that I can make sure that it's not going to stick straight up. I don't like that. I have enough glue? I think so. Okay, I'm going to slide this on. And I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to push down real well. And then I'm going to turn it to the other side and make sure, and there is going to be a little bit of excess glue. But we'll cover that up. Okay. I'll do the middle page next. And I'm going to go with this way or this way. This way. Okay, so again, I'm going to do a dry fit first. And lay it down. That'll be good. glue along the top half. On both sides. All right, slide it on, and we're really going to lay it down. Okay, press down, and notice I'm making sure that it lines up at the top and the bottom. The other direction also. And finally then, the first page. Dry fit first. Good, I'm going to go ahead and close this so I don't get it flapping all around. All right, this book came together pretty quick. The fun part now is decorating it. I still have to do the cover. Alrighty, this one, slide it on, and I'm going to kind of move this one this direction and this way to make sure it's lined up, and press down. Perfect. And there's the top view. So you have plenty of room to put some things in here. And perfect. Okay, so I just need to finish doing some of the pattern paper, the cover, and decorating, and I'll come back and show you. I'll do a walkthrough of the final one. I am going to go back probably and put strips of 3/8 inch strips in between the pages to cover up that paper. Yep, it's going to be beautiful. It'll look totally different than the other one. So, all right, I'll come back as soon as I have everything completed, and we'll do like a walkthrough. Here is the final book that I did the tutorial for. This is using the different paper. This was the Spring Awakenings, and originally the book was this one, which was the Love Letters. So you can see they have a totally different look when you use different paper, of course. This is a much more bold and bright paper. I did leave the side plain again, and then the back like so. So I thought I would just do a quick walkthrough just so you can kind of get an idea of how I decorated it. I have a butterfly in the upper left hand corner. This is from the paper collection, and I just glued it in a couple spots so that it looked like a banner, like a wave. I have a flower. This is actually a resin egg. And I have a couple flowers and some, this is a butterfly and just a plastic little piece that I have. And then look how cute that little rabbit is. I had that in my stash. So this is actually on a piece of chipboard, so it's a little bit thicker and it stands up a little bit. So on the inside then, here's that front page that is closed by using this mat. And I just put a little arrangement up in the upper left hand corner. These both open, and I did glue some mats down so that they're there for pictures. This comes out. This made that into a pocket. Okay, so when I put this back in, I'm going to put the top in first and then just kind of bend it a little bit, and it will slide down into those two angled pockets or corners. Just like the other one, I did use a wooden heart on my closure, and I put pattern paper on it, and I went through my stash. I found a little sticker that said blessings, and then I have that pearl arrangement and a little flower there. I did glue some hearts down here and there. They're gold, they're shiny. So then this will just slide up so that these will open, and here's my 3 like ticket looking pages. I didn't really add any decoration. This one I did add a cut apart, and then when they open I have some trim, like an applique up top. I used my die cutting machine and used some butterflies down there. But I really like this closure. I think it looks nice, and it's pretty easy to make and pretty easy to close. You just got to make sure you get the measurements right. On this page I added some lace. I have 2 cut aparts. I cut out a decorative border there. So I just used the shiny gold and one of the cut aparts here. The top one I just used the gold, and then I did my punch on the corners. Here's one of those resin eggs, and then I have the saying shine brightly. Here I have peace be with you, fear not. I have some pearls. I don't know if you can see them very well there. Some of the trim and cut aparts. On this side, my flap, I did add some of the lace that I have here on the front, and I also put some here. It is open, so you can slide something underneath. And then this opens. I glued this down. This is a die I have, just a tiny little butterfly. I thought maybe something could be added for journaling up top. This page is the one that will hold, I still need to put a stopper down here probably, but this unties and you can slide things underneath. My stickers say family gathering and grateful, and I just put a little butterfly in the corner. And the last page, then remember I changed the order of my paper, each of my not inserts, I guess base pages. I left this, I have a die and it's the shiny gold, and I left it open so you could slide something underneath. When I glued this down, I left it open so something can be tucked underneath. And then I basically just did paper. I did put in a 3/8 inch piece on each of the openings, you know, so that you don't see that little gusset. But I didn't really put any decorative elements, just the paper on these because I want it to lay flat. This bottom piece is a pocket. Let's see, did I glue it shut? There we go. So that is a pocket. I had a little bit of lace trim, so I put that there. That's magnetic for closure. This is a die. It's really hard to see with the light, but I thought that was really pretty. And then I used an applique. Just put a gold mat, and then I had that die again that I just glued that down. So the book comes together super easy. I hope you found the tutorial to be helpful. Both of these collections, you know what? I think this looks like I made it wider than this one. This looks like 1/4 of an inch taller. Huh. I must not know how to measure very well. Yeah, it is. This is wider. The spine is a little bit wider than the first one I did. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. All the paper collections, both the Love Letters and the Spring Awakenings, can be found at Country Craft Creations. I appreciate you subscribing to my channel and coming back to watch my tutorials. I'm wishing all of you a happy day, and I hope you come back and visit me. Thanks.